Shoutouts to Daxton, Reggie, Kathleen, and Felipe, who support the podcast on Patreon monthly. Thank you so much for your support, and you're listening to episode 89, another edition of Cubo Chats. Let's roll it.
Hi, this is Daniel Goodman.
Dylan Wang from JPerm.
Ian Scheffler.
Shivam Bansal from India.
This is Alex from Z3 Cubing.
What's up, guys? This is Jaden McNeil from Australia, and you're listening to the Corner Cutter Podcast.
That's right. Welcome to the Corner Cutter Podcast. Podcasting since 2014 and cubing since 2015. I'm your host, Josh, and this is the podcast all about speed cubing. This week is another Cubo Chats episode. That's where I bring on 2 or 3 cubers and we discuss speed cubing. We try to focus on 2 to 3 different topics and really dive deep into them. And this week I have 2 cubers on, both named Levi, so we go by Levi A and Levi G. We have a really fun discussion, and you Patreon supporters get some good bonus content as well. Before we jump into that, though, if you have any feedback, feel free to email in. I would love to hear from you. My email address is josh@thecornercutterpodcast.com. And if you want to leave an audio message, I recently had someone do that, which I will play in the next episode. You can go to thecornercutterpodcast.com/feedback, and there's a link there where you can record a message through SpeakPipe. One other thing is, yes, you're probably wondering why there hasn't been an episode for almost 2 months, and that is because school has been taking up a lot of my time. The semester wrapped up around the 20th of December, and then I was working quite a bit before Christmas, but now finally I was able to edit this episode and now publish it so you can listen to it now. We recorded this back on November 17th, so if we mention any dates or anything, so just FYI on that, this was recorded on November 17th. And now let's jump into the main segment of the episode. Okay, welcome to another Cubo Chats episode. Levi G, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And Levi A, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, let's start out with Levi G, your first topic, and tell us a little bit about your cubing background and then move into talking about your cube store.
Yeah, I've been cubing for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I don't really pay attention. But I've always liked just making things in general and setting up cubes. And I noticed that the cubicle prices for their premium cubes are a bit much, like especially the magnetic ones. They charge, I think, like $25 for a magnetic little magic. And I noticed that like on Amazon and just like if I look in places, I can get magnets and like lubricants for a lot cheaper than that. So I can like make like little magic M's for like $13, I think. And so I started my cube store, bit.ly/thecubeshack. It's called the Cube Shack, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty small right now, but I'm working on it. I'm getting more stock, getting more organized, and yeah, that is my cube store.
Okay, so how long ago did you come up with this idea and start putting it together?
Well, actually, the Cube Shack all started because I am like super paranoid about spending money. Like I was recently like accidentally spent $15 on something that I didn't mean to spend, and I like felt guilty for the next like 6 months. But I really don't like buying cubes because I'm spending money, and so I decided that I wanted to buy a good 4x4, and I wanted to like buy Wu Chui. but I wanted to save money, so I decided to get magnets too, and then I magnetized it, and it was super cheap, and it was like, oh, I can sell these, and yeah, and then it's just gone up from there.
What's your favorite cube to magnetize so far?
My favorite by far is the Maylong. It's so good, and I think it's like the magnetic Maylong is, I think, $11 or $12, I forget, on the Cube Shack, and it's just so easy to magnetize too, so easy to disassemble, and they turn so great. It's like so insane for how cheap it is.
How is it out of the box? That's one thing I'm like kind of interested in, is how cubes are straight out of the box, because if like you want to send somebody a cube, or like just give a cube to somebody without doing anything to it, what is that a good cube out of the box, or do you recommend something else?
Well, the Maylong out of the box, I don't know. I think they've had like a bunch of batches. I think like the first batch was like really, really bad and wasn't lubricated. And then I got a batch that was actually like pretty good out of the box, especially with breaking in. Like they were pretty good. And just like a couple weeks ago, I got a new batch of them, and it's like back to the first batch, and it's like they're like really, really not good. They're like really slow. They don't corner cut. They're not tight, but they like feel really tight. They're kind of comparable to like the bad Rubik's Speed Cube, not the GAN one, but like they're just like really loose, but like really slow. But with setup, they get better. So
I know there's a lot of cubes that, like you were saying, it's a lot more expensive to buy it magnetized when it is so easy. I've tried out some cubes that people have magnetized themselves, and it's really not all that different. It's cheaper, and they still feel like a magnetized cube straight from the factory, in my opinion. So I personally enjoy them.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that kind of comes down to convenience, and if like you're good at like DIYing stuff, because some people just,
Because if you're willing to put in the time and effort, you get a good product. But if it's where you don't want to put that time into it and you just want it, that's, I guess, when you would want to buy it pre-magnetized.
Yeah, in my opinion, like, I always like, if I want to buy a magnetic cube now, I just magnetize it myself. Just buy the non-magnetic one, if there is one, and just magnetize it, and it's just so much cheaper. It's like crazy.
yeah, I find that too with selling both magnetic Lingo clocks and selling the magnets for them as well. Some people are like, no way, I definitely can't make that even after watching my tutorials, but some people are like, oh, I'm just buying magnets and making the clock myself. It's really interesting, the difference, that how different people are.
I am personally not good at magnetizing clocks. I've already tried buying 2 sets of magnets from you, and I destroyed the clocks. But I mean, I've been meaning to get a magnetized one from you, but
Yeah, I'm actually soon interested in getting some magnets. My friend Nico, he recently just got some magnets from you. He's like now like sub 10 on clock, or sub 9, I think. And I've tried his clocks, and they're very good.
my Rubik's brand gets me in the 20s, but I would just really like to have a magnetized clock, maybe drop my times a little bit more.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the difference between going straight from a decent non-magnetic version to a magnetic version.
And that goes for about anything. The cubes, the clocks.
Yeah, I think you're right on that as well. Levi G, could you tell us more about your cube store? Anything else you wanted to share with that?
Yeah, well, besides like selling premium cubes for super cheap, We also just like do normal, kind of just like selling cube stuff. Like looking at 3x3, like I actually now have the GAN XS in stock, which is pretty cool. Same with the Thunderclap V3, Kylan V2, a bunch of cool cubes that are popular, and I don't set them up or anything. I try to match the prices of the cubicle and like make them cheaper if possible, but I mean, the cubicle prices are pretty reasonable, and so I just match them to not create any controversy, like, oh, this cube store is more expensive or less expensive or whatever.
And you're talking about the just not set up cubes right there for
not set up cubes.
Okay.
Also, the shipping I offer now, it's actually like I'm at like a small enough point where I can just like usually ship out packages that I get, orders that I get like the day of, unless the post office isn't open. So there's usually some pretty fast shipping.
Nice, yeah. So yeah, even with first class mail, if you get it out the same day, it's like 2 to 3 day shipping, which is really cool.
And from my personal experience with the cubicle, it can take 2 weeks to get a cube in. Getting it in 2 or 3 days would be something nice to have, because I always anticipate when I get a cube, I'm always anticipating it. I can't wait to have it at my doorstep and start setting it up.
Yeah, that's something you can really consider when buying a cube. The shipping speed, or even order processing speed. Because, like, I know the cubicle they have, if you pay an extra $2, you get rush processing, which is like, is it 1 day processing instead of a couple days? And then on top of that, if you want it quick, priority mail is like at least $8. So yeah, so that's definitely a factor when buying cubes.
And I would believe, as far as the fact that Christmas is starting to approach us, people are going to start buying cubes, and that time is going to be even more increased. And so it's going to take even longer. So maybe where you're going with it, you put in the mail the same day and have it out, and it'd be nice, because with that season starting to roll around, the holiday season, those cube orders are going to start getting backed up. And
I feel like that's comparable to Chinese New Year, because I order like all my like stock packages from China for just like the Cube Shack, and during the Chinese New Year, like the orders often get backed up because they're all like celebrating.
Yeah, and it's same reason. It's more people are buying stuff, and it's going to back up, and people aren't going to be doing business because it's the holidays. And
yeah, and when someone says an order is shipped, like you get a shipping confirmation email, that doesn't always mean the post office has possession of the item. That could just mean they printed the shipping label and it's still sitting in the warehouse. So when you say something's shipped, I like if you're going with USPS, USPS has possession of the item at the post office. That's what I liked to see in the tracking.
Because just saying it's shipped, it may not be coming straight. It may not be headed towards your door yet.
You're right. Yeah, it could still. I mean, they could print the label and it's still sitting in the warehouse for a couple days, or at least for another day or so, until the truck comes and picks up the packages.
I recently had one of those experiences while ordering magnets. As a public service announcement, never order magnets from OMO Magnets, because they do not do a very good job of shipping out their packages. I ordered magnets from them, I think, like over a month ago, and I think they shipped them out like a week ago. But they said they shipped it out like 3 months ago. I mean, not 3 months ago. Like, they said they shipped it out like the day that I ordered it, but they didn't, and they finally shipped it, and it's a really bad situation to get in.
Huh. That's interesting. I actually had a great experience with OMO magnets. That's where I get my 5x1 mm disc magnets. And I've always been satisfied with the shipping speed. So, yeah, that's... So, did you got the tracking or the shipping confirmation email and the tracking never...
Well, actually, the whole story is actually kind of dumb. So I ordered it, and it said it was shipped, but I didn't get a tracking number. And after like a couple weeks, it didn't arrive. So I contacted customer service, and they didn't reply. And then I contacted like a couple more times, and they didn't reply. And I was getting like really panicked, like, what if my magnets aren't coming, blah, blah, blah. And so I like... I totally spammed all of their customer service and social media with like a lot of emails and stuff, and they replied with, "Yeah," and they replied with, "I'm sorry, the product that you ordered is out of stock. We're going to get it in stock and then ship it." And they said it was shipped, and it can't be shipped if it's out of stock. And then they shipped it, but they didn't ship it again, and it was just like a huge situation. I'm finally like glad that it's actually shipped now, because it's gonna arrive within the next like week or so. Finally.
Watch now they get your order wrong.
I wouldn't be very surprised.
You the wrong magnet. Send you the disc magnets or something.
Yeah.
Well, I did order disc magnets, so.
Or something else.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, I think my friend Elijah recently ordered like 4x2s from Amazon, and they I measured them. I took one home and measured it, and it was like 4x1.7.
Yeah.
And I tested them out in a Mailong, and it was actually like weaker than the actual 4x2s I had.
Huh. Yeah, I ordered 5x1s one time from Amazon. I don't anymore, but they were just a tiny bit smaller than, 5x1s, sorry. They were a tiny bit smaller than the OMO 5x1s I had. So, yeah, that's interesting getting magnets from Amazon.
I've never actually gotten magnets from Amazon. All the magnets I've ever ordered have been from you, but
Amazon is good if you want your package quickly. But I've tried out a bunch of like magnet suppliers. I've tried out eBay, I've tried out OMO, and eBay magnets are all right, but one time it took over 3 months for the package to get to my porch. And OMO, as I have said, is not very good, so I'm going to be trying Goss Boys next, because I heard on your podcast with DM Cubing that it was pretty good, Goss Boys.
Yeah, it does sound the customer service is pretty good. My only problem is the expense is like 11 cents a magnet or something like that, and that can get pretty pricey.
Well, if you order in like really big bulk, then they're not that as expensive. They're like a couple bucks for 50.
You're right. Okay. Yep, that's correct.
And I know you said Amazon was fast, but that's not even always the case. I ordered a Ling Out Master Magic that took like a month and a half, though it probably should have shipped sooner.
Yeah, sometimes some of the sellers on Amazon are located in China, so it still takes a while.
That was it, but even when I tend to order stuff from China, it's usually a little faster than that, though I did once order Xiaomi Gicker Cube, and they sold me the non-electronic one, even though it was clearly stated it was electronic.
Oh.
And it took like 3 months.
Oh, that's a long time.
for them not even to send me the right cube.
Yeah, when ordering stuff from China, it's so unpredictable. I've gotten stuff. At one point, it seemed like 2 weeks was the number for like e-packet delivery or something, or China Post or whatever. But then it's...
I mean, I understand customs and stuff exists, and that takes a while, but usually it should not take 3 months to get a package in.
Mm-hmm.
One shipping method that I found very reliable is DHL, especially with like when I'm ordering from China, I'm ordering like a ton of cubes at a time, and DHL is like super, super good for large packages, and also their shipping is like really reliable.
Which is funny you say that, because the 3-month order was through DHL.
Oh, of course.
I mean, I guess again, it sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And
what probably happened is it took like 3 months to ship, because DHL, like the shipping method is reliable, maybe not the supplier.
The tracking numbers, but because I was constantly tracking it, but spent a lot of time in China.
Yeah, now when I order packages from China, whatever it might be, I know it's gonna be a while, so I just forget about it. Don't look at the tracking. Just wait and have a surprise when it shows up.
Yeah. But as I stated earlier, I tend to anticipate those packages a lot. I'm usually constantly watching YouTube videos about what I'm ordering, and because I just can't wait to get that package. And so I constantly track it.
That happened to me with ordering magnets from eBay. Like I was waiting outside, like looking for the USPS truck every day, and it took 3 months to come.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they say a watch pot never boils, but I don't think that's quite how it works.
I have a fun story. This actually happened yesterday. I ordered a Julian Edelman Patriots jersey from DH Gate, which is located in China. And I knew it was going to be a couple weeks until it got here, so I just didn't look at the tracking. And then yesterday, this was a few weeks ago, and yesterday I was like, so I just had this feeling that it would come yesterday. And like throughout the day, I was like, oh, I think my jersey is going to come today. And then when the mail came, it was like, I have 3 packages for you, and one turned out to be my jersey. So that was pretty fun. I'm glad it came before today's game.
Yeah, I've had orders from China take anywhere from a couple days to months. I think our overall record with them was almost 6 months, but we won't get into that.
What's the quickest someone has ever gotten a package? I think mine has been like 12 days.
I've gotten one in just over a week.
Okay, that's pretty good.
I have like 2 stories with this. I think like a couple times from ordering from like the Cubicle or something, I've gotten them in like 4 or 5 days. But one time so someone was ordering a package from the Cube Shack, and I looked at their address, and they lived in the same town as me, and I put it into Google Maps, and they lived 7 minutes away from me. So that person got very lucky to have free 7-minute shipping.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, now when we're talking in the US, I have had same-day shipping before, but I was more meaning like China shipping.
Yeah, I was meaning China as well. Quickest.
Oh, China.
Yeah.
Amazon has a location half an hour from me, so
Huh.
makes it easy to get stuff same day.
Oh, that's pretty nice. Especially when you have
But usually
Prime.
they
as
don't
well.
have cubes. Half the time it's coming from the East Coast.
Levi A, did you want to start talking about your topic, which you mentioned to me? Do you want to talk about clocks?
Yeah, as far as like clock standing in the WCA, the more and more I've looked into it, the less and less competitions I've seen, at least in my area, that have had clock as an event, which, as someone who likes solving clocks at competitions, it's almost starting to worry me as something they might put on the chopping block to remove. And I know I've heard this topic covered, I think, in March, but it's almost started to worry me that they might remove it soon, just because I've seen less and less competitions with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Northeast does have very few clock competitions. They had it once. Was that what you were talking about in March or something else? They had a clock competition recently in Mass with clock, but yeah, other than that, the Northeast really hasn't had clock very much, like you mentioned.
People get competitions in general around the Midwest, or at least anywhere that is close enough for me to attend. It was the closest one has ever been to me was at my school, but that was before I even got into cubing. But the last competition I went to didn't have it. The first competition I went to was the only one where I ever actually got to compete clock because of it. Not that I've been to many in the first place, but then it's even worse because the delegate who usually runs competitions I'm at competes a lot of clock.
Yeah, same with me. Evan Liu delegates a lot of the competitions I go to, and he's used to have North American record in clock average, and he has clock in a lot of the competition he goes to, or that he delegates.
Yeah, the delegate it's Josh Farron, but
Oh yeah, Yahuwah.
at the first competition, I've never actually been to one of his competitions where he ran clock. I'd have to look back at who was the delegate for the one I did go to, because Josh was there, and he competed clock, but I've never actually been to one of his competitions where he hosted clock.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point there. It depends on the delegates, because clock is a difficult event to hold. Kind of complicated and hard to make sure everybody's doing scrambling fairly and that sort of stuff. So
Scrambling can be weird because the pins and all that can get messed up, and some people don't know how to scramble the clocks, don't know the...
yeah, I think
clock gets...
It can be a lot harder on the staff, because I know I've staffed a competition before, and if you don't know how to read those scramble sheets, you have an issue.
going back to whether it's getting removed, though, I actually recently recorded an interview which will be coming out on December 1st with Lucas Guerin, who's the head of the WRC, which is the regulations committee, and I asked him directly if he thinks clock is going to be next, since feet looks like it will probably be removed. And he actually said no,
And Dawn.
it's not.
The feet, the blinds, I would say almost, but because of where the blind events are, most of the reason people don't compete them is because not many people know how to do it. But with feet, again, I heard this in a previous podcast, but it's not like it's something most people can't do. It's not a matter of learning to do it. It's a normal 3x3, just solving it a little differently. Almost anybody who can cube could solve it with their feet after a little practice, but it's just nobody wants to do it because sanitation becomes the thing.
Yeah, well, feet, I don't think is like a gross event.
Yeah, not personally in my opinion, but it is to a number of people.
Well, I mean, like, I think, like, cubing, and especially, like, cubing competitions in general, just, like, are gross. Like, I always feel sick after going to a cubing comp.
Feel sick, or do you actually get sick? Like with a cold or whatever?
Well, I don't know. I just, like, well, pretty much at the competitions, because, like, I, like, barely have any breakfast because I'm excited, I guess. And then just, like, all the germs, and I wake up really early to drive there, and yeah, like, all that combined makes me feel kind of just, like, disgusting during competitions.
The only thing that would usually get me is if the comp does have food and the food is bad. But
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, competitions, everybody's touching every cube, the scrambler, then the runner,
the scrambler's
then
gonna touch the judge,
then the judge,
me.
then you, and then it goes back 5 times for one cube. So, yeah, it's a
It's always-
perfect place
and
for germs to
maybe
spread.
someone different scrambling your cube and see germs spread fast. And then if you're letting other people try your cubes, you're trying other people's cubes. Sometimes I've seen people running their own little cube shops at competitions that don't have one, where everybody's trying the cubes. And last competition I went to, Cube Depot was there. They had a whole bunch of cubes set out for people to try before they buy, and so everybody's touching those, and so germs spread around fast. And so that may be part of it.
Yeah, actually, I have a funny story kind of related to this. I think this was Cube Finals, and I was, like, in contention for podiuming in Cube Finals, but something that did not help is that all the scramblers had, like, really, really sweaty hands. So, like, whenever I got my cube, it was, like, covered in sweat, and it was, like, I totally bombed, like, a PR single after my previous PR single got DNF'd because of a miss scramble, which is annoying. But I'm getting that sub 3 someday.
Yeah, when one time it was first event of the morning, 2x2. Someone had just brought in a couple boxes of donuts, so everybody headed over there. I sat down for my first attempt and picked up my cube, and there was like something brown on it. It was chocolate. Was on, like, smeared on my 2x2. So I had to complete my solve, and then I made sure to tell the delegate, but I didn't get an extra attempt or anything, but it turned out okay. So that's one thing. Organizers, tell your staff directly, no eating while scrambling.
Yeah,
I got an extra.
I've never had that happen to me, but as someone who has staffed competitions before, I know that sometimes they'll bring in food, and the delegates, I know Josh at the last competition I went to bought everybody Portillo's. and so there's a good chance something got on someone's cube.
Yeah, I think that rule needs to be written into the WCA regulations.
At least wash your hands before you.
I think that's actually a really good idea. Like, all scramblers need to wash their hands before, like, scrambling. Just, like, keep it sanitary.
Yeah, Or next time, I think I'm just gonna get a few bottles of hand sanitizer and just put them around on the scrambling and tables and encourage people to use them. Just, like, because we were talking about, especially during, like, flu season or sick season in the spring and fall, I think a lot of people come home sick if they're not careful. Like, I'm always very careful what I touch, always wash my hands before I eat anything, and I haven't gotten sick from a competition yet.
I haven't gotten sick from a competition, but again, it's very possible to get sick from a competition.
Yep, I agree.
That, and especially if it's a bigger competition, a lot of people are there, their family's there. If it's congested at all, it's possible.
Another funny, but at the same time not very funny thing that I saw at a competition, they had pizza there, and I saw one kid timing himself on a stack mat how fast he could eat a piece of pizza. So he would take his probably greasy hands, put them on the stack mat, start it, eat the piece of pizza, and then stop it. So
I think another thing is there should be rules in place about using those stack mats outside of the competition, or just even cubing in general, because I've been to competitions where they'll let me sit down and practice between rounds, or like letting me break in a cube I had just bought there.
Yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about letting people. I mean, I think it's okay for staff to do, but as long as there's no one. Yeah, I would have to think about that. I'm really not sure, because as a new competitor, I would like to try out the timers, because usually new competitors don't have stack mats or whatever. At least I didn't. And just getting a feel for them before doing any official solves would have been nice.
I didn't have the specific one they had. I did not have the Gen 4. I have a Gen 3 and Gen 1 stack mat timer, because I used to do cup stacking.
A funny story from my first competition. I don't know why I thought this, but when I went to the first competition, I was under the impression that I needed to bring my own timer. So I brought my own Gen 4 timer, and then everyone told me, it was like, no, you don't need to bring it. I was like, oh, I just wasted like $30 whatever. But it wasn't.
But it's got to be nice, though. You at least have one to practice on at home.
Yeah, it kind of just like got. I'm happy I did it because it got around the fact that I'm paranoid about spending money. So,
this point, I just use timers on my iPad or whatever. I don't really see the need to buy a Gen 4 timer if I really don't need it.
I've heard of like a new GAN timer that might be coming out soon. There's no like prototypes or anything. I'm not sure, but there was like a post on it from like an official source on Instagram.
I think it's really important for some events, though, getting practice all the time with a stack mat, where just getting used to picking up the cube so you can get good official results. Like, I've noticed Ghost Cuber, who's gotten super fast at Pyraminx. He uses it looks like all he uses now is stack mat connected to his computer, and he's been getting some really nice official Pyraminx results. And I think that part of it is due to the fact that he's gotten used to using the stack mat.
And it is nice to get good, because if you can get fast enough, because there are times where if you're not fast enough to pick up the cube or put it down and stop the timer, that'll start adding time to your results. And
yeah, you're right. Well, I think that's probably a good place to start wrapping it up. I want you guys, if you guys have anything you'd like to advertise, please go ahead. Levi G, what are the links for your cube store again?
Well, so it should be thecubeshack.com because I bought the domain, but Wix is weird, the website editor, so I do not have thecubeshack.com. Instead, it's bit.ly/thecubeshack, which is, I'll be getting thecubeshack.com soon, but so far it's bit.ly/thecubeshack.
Okay. Do you have any social media or YouTube or anything as well?
Well, yeah, I do have, I have 2 YouTube accounts. I have, the Cube Shack where I actually post actual reviews, and then I don't know, I'm not really promoting it, but I do have Levi Gibson, which is a YouTube channel which I don't post content on it. I just post kind of just hey, I found this cool alg, or here's an official average that no one will watch. And yeah.
Okay.
And Instagram is also just the Cube Shack, at the Cube Shack.
And I'll have those linked in the show notes. Well, thank you to both of you for coming on this episode of Cubu Chats. We had a fun discussion.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, that was an interesting discussion. We covered a few different topics, and it was nice getting so many different opinions. Remember, if you have any feedback, I would love to hear from you. My email address is josh@thecornercutterpodcast.com, and why don't you check out the show notes to this episode? There's timestamps, links, and even a player in each show notes post. So you can check that out by clicking on the episodes page on thecornercutterpodcast.com. I want to thank one more time the Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. And thank you for sticking with me through the time where there wasn't any episodes, but I hope to have more out soon. I got a great interview coming out next week with the WRC, the leader of the WRC, which is the Regulations Committee in the WCA. We have a fascinating discussion. It's really amazing. So come back for that. But anyway, Patreon supporters, thank you so much for your continued support. And that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. You rock. And come back next week for episode 90 of the Corner Cutter Podcast. New England Patriots are 12-3, and they're playing their last game tomorrow, Sunday the 29th, against the Miami Dolphins, and then it's time for the playoffs. So I'm excited. They've had a pretty good year, and they're definitely in the hunt for the Super Bowl. I'm excited.